Okay, things we shall start. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. We hope everyone is safe and in best of health. My name is Muhammad Fadli from Yayasan Pendidikan Antarctica Sultan Mizan or YPASM. Thank you for joining us in sharing session on YPASM Smart Partnership Initiative Research Fund. This session will discuss about research priority area in polar research and explain in details about the funding scheme and other available assistance offered under this initiative. So do enjoy the talk, and you are welcome to ask questions on or give comment or feedbacks to our invited speakers during the Q&A session, which is allocated at the end of the session. Okay, so as overall, we will start our session with the overview and current trend of polar research to be delivered by none other than our Sifu, Professor Dr. Azizan Abu Samah, Executive Director of National Antarctic Research Center, followed by the details of YPASM Smart Partnership Initiative, and which will cover research fund and types of research support offered by YPASM. And this slot will be delivered by Mr. Nasaruddin Abdul Rahman, Chief Executive Officer of YPASM. We also invited two recipients of YPASM Research Fund to share their experience and tips in securing grants and fellowship under YPASM, and also to share their plan and participation in expeditions to Antarctica. So every speaker is allocated 20 minutes for their session, and I would like to request all speakers to stick to the time given, as we would like to have more time for Q&A session. Without further ado, I would like to invite Bahagia Professor Dr. Azizan Abu Samah to deliver talk entitled Antarctic Research Priority and SCAR Horizon Scan. Yes, Prof, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me see whether I can share. Okay. Okay, my talk actually is a bit different, but still cover the same. How long am I given? 20 minutes, is it? 20 minutes, yeah? So kan 20 minutes? Okay.
Betul, Prof, 20 minutes.
Okay. So I'll try to share. All right. So where do I start? Well, I think it's quite good for those who are attending to understand our early involvement in Antarctic. And you know, it started in 1982 with the question of Antarctica. And then after that, we have the cabinet decision that Malaysia should embark in Antarctic research, and that was in 1997. And in terms of, we acceded to the Antarctic Treaty in 2011, and we ratified the Madrid Protocol on 2016. So the only step that we need to do is become a consultative status. So that means we have then a vote in how we manage Antarctica and the South Ocean. And that is one of the policy aim of Malaysian Antarctic Research Program, especially is that to get us into the consultative status. So the two arms of the Malaysian Antarctic Program. The first one was started with the task force in 1999, and then the task force established the National Antarctic Research Center 2002, and then because of the issue of sustaining, in 2012 we set up the Sultan Mizan Antarctic Research Foundation, at least the Yayasan Pendidikan Antarctica Sultan Mizan, in 2012. So now we are at the 10th year of YPASM, and that I think is the main reason is because we do need a body for sustaining Malaysian interests. So if not, we just get weighed and up and down depending on the political will of our political masters. So the area of research that Malaysia has entered is biological sciences, atmospheric sciences, environmental sciences, and geological sciences. And we are also involved in policy. We do get people who talk about Antarctic Treaty, the whole issue of how do you manage Antarctica, or what is Antarctic tourism, what are the things. And so this is some of our areas of research. And we are in a unique position. We don't have any logistic. We don't have a base in Antarctic, and our whole program since 1999 survived by having cooperation with national program that do have logistic and do have bases in the Antarctic. So we work with nearly the Latin American countries, we work with the European countries, we also work with South Africa, and of course we are also very close contact with the FOPS community, which is the Asian Forum on Polar Research, with the Chinese, with Korea, and with NIPR, the Japanese, and with India. And we are a permanent member of FOPS, and we at the moment we hold the chair for the FOPS, and we have also worked, forgot about AAD and Antarctica, New Zealand. So this is some of the collaboration that we have. We have more actually now. We just signed an MOU with Ukraine. I think Argentina is also interested, but we have not signed yet an MOU. But apart from that, we also cooperate at university to university level. Now, this is the collaboration since 1999 to 2017, and the amount of scientific expedition that we've undertaken. As you can see, we have our major thing was around 2007, 2008, and then 2016. We start 2017 when we lose the flagship. We finished the flagship program. It's mostly the number of expedition decreased. And this is the people who you work with, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, India. At one stage, we were working with Ecuador. But the one that is sustaining us quite a lot is UK, Chile, and Korea, and now China. And Australia, we have a bit of cooperation, but not much. And this is where we are in terms of footprint. You can see Malaysia is in MYS. That's Malaysia. We are just we are ahead of Bulgaria. We are ahead of Ukraine. We are ahead of Uruguay. We are ahead of Ecuador. We are ahead of Peru. All of them are consultative members. So we are about the same as Austria and Portugal. So I think, if we push ourselves, we can put ourselves in the South Africa, Sweden, where you have the dotted line without any problem. Okay. Now, in terms of existing research, what I'm listing for you is the university that is involved and the area of research that they are undertaking at the moment. That doesn't mean that we are not interested in new areas. We are, but this is just sort of a snapshot of the sort of work being done by various universities. And so you can see in many areas, especially biology, you can see UM, USM, UMS, UPM, very very active in terms of impact of heavy metal. You can see IMU there. And then in terms of policies, UITM actually is the one leading in a lot of the research dealing with values. Okay, so this is what happened. So we are, of course, we would like to have new universities and new people involved. So we are in our third phase of research, and basically we want to increase our footprint. And the only way you can increase in the footprint is, to get our research to be more in line with SCAR research. And when we are more in line, then we can get more Malaysians involved in the SCAR standing committees and SCAR expert group. And I think that is our main target now, how to increase the Malaysian research footprint in terms of international domain. And this is quite important because we want to, if we do go for consultative, we want to show that we are very strong, both in the Antarctic Treaty system and also in terms of the Committee of Environmental Protection. There are many areas. Climate change is one of the areas of the concern. So we want to be active in both the Antarctic Treaty system itself, the Committee of Environmental Protection, and SCAR, because SCAR advised the Committee of Environmental Protection. And in the final note, hopefully, we will promise that we will have our Malaysian Antarctic Act. And so the research also will then strengthen the Malaysian Antarctic Act. And I think with the Malaysian Antarctic Act, my hope is that we can try for some long-term funding and maybe try for a base in Antarctic finally. Okay, so these are our membership. We are quite active in SCAR. We take leadership in TATE. We are also an active member in Antarctica, and we hope that we can have more of Malaysian in the steering committee and in the expert group in SCAR. And the only way you can do it is show that you have a major scientific contribution. Okay, so the one that the panel that we are heading in Antarctic is the Action Group on Tropical Antarctic Teleconnection, TATE. And so this is the overview of TATE that I'm just giving. So basically this is looking at linkage between high and low latitude, understanding the mechanism of teleconnection and how this impact on Asian monsoon. And in that sense, being able to predict whether the monsoon is going to be more intense or less intense. So this is what you call mid-range weather forecasting that can come out from the research that we are undertaking. So there's some teleconnection work that we've done, and I just go through them very, in a glossary manner. But I think the more important one is the one that we are doing now, in which we have shown much to the monsoon people in India that the Antarctic sea ice on the Indian Ocean has a very important impact on the Indian summer monsoon. So there are two papers. The first paper is already out, and this is among the first to publish on export of export of polar signal to the tropic. They are the masculine high, and I'm glad to say that we are the one heading this particular research. And I think my PhD student now is publishing the second paper in which we are looking at the mechanism, how this come about. Okay, and this has been now quoted, okay, by other people. The other one, every 2 years we have MISA 9. So my hope is that those who are applying now have attended MISA 9, because in MISA 9 Basically, it showcased all the work that Malaysians have undertaken currently in Antarctic, and that will be quite a good start for you all. But I think more importantly, you can download. There's a workshop at Misa 9. I hope those who apply for atmospheric processes did attend the workshop, so that at least they know what is being sort of interest in TATE. And the other one is in biology. There's also a workshop done on transcriptomic analysis of polar fungi. And so these are some of the work that I hope some of you are familiar with when you are applying in biology. So I did a LANS organization, LANS.org search since I think from 19 something. But the more importantly is that since now, up to now, there are about 907 publications from Malaysia by Malaysian scientists on Antarctic research. And as you can see from here, is that the main activities that, nearly about 100 papers were published in 2018, I think. So in the journal preprint, and these are the areas being published. So you can see biology 270, environmental science 126, atmospheric science 46, environmental resource management 40. So this is the sort of scope. We have biology, we have climate change, we have ecology, and we have bacteria also, biochemistry. So you can really look into all the publication that Malaysia has undertaken in LANS.org, and you can look at the abstract. So what I'm trying to say is that those who are new, who wants to come in, please take the trouble in your particular area or field just to look into what are the area in which Malaysian scientists are publishing. And as you can see, we work quite a lot with British Antarctic Survey. So these are the universities publishing in different areas. So you can see biology is dominated by UM, and then after that UMS, and then of course University Putra, and then USM. And while environment is more UKM, a bit of UM coming in, UPM also. But as I said, we work very closely at one stage with British Antarctic Survey. So we have quite a lot of British Antarctic Survey that publish with us. And then you have geology is a Mazlan group. We have UTM dominating, and then geography will be UKM. And as you can see, the highest publisher actually is Aklima's group in UPM. And then the one that they work with is of course Pete Conway, which is from Bath. So he's quite instrumental in a lot of our research publication. And then I think fourth or fifth will be myself, and then after that Siti Aisha, and then all the people down the line. So these are the active people. Some are PhD students like Muhammad Yunus Abdul Shukur is my student. And I think Wicha published quite a lot with Birgit Quack, and Sharul is coming up. So we have a mix, the oldies and the young people coming up, which is a very good combination. So we have quite a very, what I would say, a very active polar group still in the country. And so polar research is not dying yet. So it is still very strong.
Prof, 3 minutes, Prof.
Okay, that's right. Okay, good, thank you. So these are the publication. Most of it is in polar sciences. Then we have atmospheric physics and chemistry, and then polar biology, and a bit of ocean. And then we have polar journal, which is more on polar policy. So we have the whole range, yeah. So now the question is, if you want to go and put a research proposal for YPASM, first I think you should for the newer one is to look at lens.org, search under the keyword Malaysia and Antarctica, and then you can see all the papers published by Malaysian polar researcher. The other one, if you have the time, but if you haven't, then you should have attended the MISA 9. And then you have the SCAR has a number of standing programs. And in 2022, the big SCAR open science. So if you care, please register so that you know. And the need, so you need to do some reading. And if you are doing some planning for some fieldwork, it takes about a year of planning before you can do it. And you have to be realistic with your research. Since, as I said, we don't have logistic support, we work with national programs such as INAJ, Ukraine, BAS, COPRI, NIPR, AAD, or PRIC for us to have access to their logistics. So you need to be realistic in terms of planning your fieldwork. So these are the areas in SCAR that you can go and you can click on them and you get more information. And again, this is the SCAR Open Science. And the thing is, one of the things that I want to finish off, if I may, is that polar research can be undertaken without going to the Antarctic. Because sometimes there's good example, if you're doing modeling work, you're doing simulation work, then you can use reader data, you can use all the global data set that's available in the Antarctic and in the Arctic. You can use ERA5, you can use CMIX6 data, you can use remote sensing. And if you are interested in bioprospecting, we already have a vast collection of microbial sample that you can use. It's either stored in UPM, stored in stored in UKM, or stored in UMS. So these are available for you to do bioprospecting. So you have to contact the researcher involved. Okay, these are my advice, those who need to do field work. Okay, you need to also understand the bureaucracy of custom clearance, because some custom clearance, especially let's say Argentina, is a bit messy. Some are not. So and the other one is, if you want to bring sample home, you have also to be concerned with biosecurity, and import microbe into Malaysia. So there are other support. I think this one NASA will continue. The other one that I want to say is that there are also other support in terms of from FOPS, from COPRI, from the National Institute of Polar Research Japan, and of course there's SCAR Fellowship, in which you also have, we are trying to encourage more Asian to apply for those calls. Okay, I hope there's enough time. Thank you very much. You can contact me at this email if you have any follow-up question in which I cannot answer during this period. Thank you very much, Farid.
Thank you, Prof. We can ask more questions during Q&A session to Prof later, right? Now I would like to invite Mr. Nasaruddin Abdul Rahman, CEO of YPASM, to deliver his talk on polar research opportunities through the Smart Partnership Initiative. Mr. Nasar, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fardi, and also thanks a lot to Prof. Azizan for the very valuable advice to the audience on how to go about the tips before you really submit or write your proposal. So my topic for this afternoon is, can I have the slide, Tan?
It's really take time sikit nak load.
Well, I also like to take this opportunity to welcome those who is new to this polar research, and also to those that have been quite familiar to Antarctica program. So I think another advice is that do consult your senior in Antarctic research. We have a number of researchers who are actively involved in Antarctic research. So I think they are more than happy to assist you, seek advice from them before you write your proposal and then submit it to YPASM. Okay, next slide. A little bit about YPASM. We were established in 2012 by the government of Malaysia with the launching grant of 10 million ringgit, and every year we given 500,000 matching grant, provided we managed to raise 500,000. And we were registered as a company limited by guarantee in July 2012. And the time we were established, we was put under Ministry of Science, but since 2020, we were placed under the purview of Ministry of Environment and Water. With regard to YPASM Smart Partnership Initiative, we as mentioned by Prof. Azizan, we have to think of how to sustain the Antarctica program, which was started earlier in 1997. So I think after 1 year YPASM was established, we introduced the smart partnership concept. We work closely with university, and since 2016, we managed to get 7 universities to work closely with us under this smart partnership. And to date, we have 8 universities, and we are exploring for more universities to come on board. Namely, the 8 universities are UiTM, UKM, University Malaya, University Putra Malaysia, UMS, USM, IMU, and UMT. I'm happy to see that many big university or research university used to be before taking part in this initiative. Next. So we have YPASM on one side, and the other side we have participating university. As said, now we have 8 participating university, and each university contributes 62,500 annually. Okay, and then the annual contribution from the 8 participating university will come to 500,000. And then YPASM on the other side, we match 500,000, then make the fund available for the under this initiative 1 million a year, and this 1 million will be distributed into 3 components, namely research grant, fellowship scheme, and birth support to Antarctica, which will benefit the 8 participating universities. So since 2013, we have given 36 research grant, 13 fellowship scheme, and 12 birth support, which the total amount of 7 million ringgit. Other than researcher from each participating university entitled to bid for research grant, fellowship scheme, and birth support, the participating university is also considered as strategic associate to YPASM through promotional or through website and other means of communication. Some information about Polaris Grant. is awarded to encourage local researchers to undertake research in Antarctic, Arctic, and Southern Ocean, as well as analytical research at Malaysian institution. As mentioned by Prof. Azizan earlier, not necessary for you to go to polar region. The research grant will partially support the cost of research in polar science and policy by providing fund for the purpose of research capacity building or joint fieldwork. And then the area, I think, was mentioned by Prof. Azizan. The eligibility for research grant, project must be related to scientific research in polar region. Applicant must possess a PhD in any field of science and technology and at least 3 years experience in related field. Then the applicant must be researcher from university participating in this partnership. And project must involve a minimum of 2 local or international institutions. We strongly encourage that other than local, you try to get your international collaborator. And I think the other point here is that try to get those that has been involved in Antarctica as your partner or collaborator. Don't just focus on your neighborhood, but try to get collaborator from other institution as well. Quantum and duration not exceeding 36 months or 3 years, with maximum allocation of 150,000 at the moment. Next. Scope of expenditure. This grant covers wages and allowance for temporary and contract personnel, travel and transportation, rentals of equipment, research material, and also special services related to the project. This is to give some example of project title as well as institution and personnel that have been given or awarded research grants since 2013 from various universities, including UPM, USM, UMT, UITM, University Putra. So one way of try to get in touch with these people to get some advice before writing your proposal for this initiative. I think this list is available in our website, so you can always refer to our website to get more details about the project as well as the lead researcher. Next is about YPASM fellowship scheme. Is to provide fellowship opportunity, especially for the young Malaysian scientists to pursue their research interests. And the main aim is to facilitate the professional development and training of early career scientists, and mainly to allow researchers to undertake short-term visit to major international laboratories, field facility, or institute in or operated by Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research or SCA member countries other than Malaysia. In terms of eligibility criteria, must be PhD student or those within 5 years of having completed a PhD. Applicant should not be more than 40 years old at the time of application. Must have at least 3 years experience in related field, and project must involve a minimum of 2 local or international institutions. Quantum and duration not exceeding 12 months or 1 year, and the allocation for the fellowship scheme is 50,000 ringgit. Scope of expenditure is to cover economy class round trip travel from Kuala Lumpur to host institution. modest subsistence allowance for the fellowship period. And under this fellowship scheme, the applicant home institute or the university will bear all expenses incurred in his or her home country, while the host institute will waive any bench fee that they might normally charge. This list provides the fellowship scheme recipients since 2013. I think again this list is available in the website of YPASM. Just to show you, can we go back to the list? Some of the partners that Malaysian scientists are working under the fellowship scheme: British Antarctic Survey, I think University of Manchester, University of Nottingham, Northumbria University, British Antarctic Survey itself. So basically, the scientists will go and do some work, some other the laboratory or the field facility belongs to the partners. The third one is birth support to Antarctica. This is to make sure that Malaysian researcher can set foot in Antarctica. We have two categories for birth support. One is with the British Antarctic Survey. We have MOU signed with British Antarctic Survey for 5 years term. So this is to make sure again that at least we can send Malaysian scientists to do activity in Antarctica. The other one is birth support through any other SCA member countries. So this one we have no specific. We have MOU to some extent, as mentioned by Prof. Azizan. We recently signed with Ukraine, renew MOU with INASH, Chile. So this is example of SCA member country. So with this British Antarctic Survey, we are now in the second phase. We have first MOU from 2013 to 2018 and subsequently renew it for another 5 years, 2019 to 2024. The scientific collaboration include joint collaborative project. Again, I would like to highlight here is that research project must be of interest to both parties. In the case of British Antarctic Survey and also Malaysian scientists. So this will provide opportunity for Malaysian scientists to do research activity at the British Antarctic Research Station, either at Sydney or Rotorua in Antarctica. Next. The support provided under this category is that we, YPASM, will make an annual contribution of £27,500 to British Antarctic Survey. The payment is to British Antarctic Survey is to cover your expenditure during your stay in Rotorua or Sydney in the Antarctica. So under this scheme, we are expected to support at least 2 Malaysian researchers every year. And the cost that we pay to British Antarctic Survey is enough to cover your activity at the station and day trips from the station. So any other activity extending this understanding would require a separate financial contribution by the researcher or home institution, including your travel to Antarctica is to be paid by your other grant, basically, some other from your own research institution or any other sponsors. This is, as I mentioned, researchers should pay for the expenses as follows. This is from your, it's not going to fund, it's not going to be funded by YPASM because YPASM has its responsibility to pay the British Antarctic Survey £27,000 for each researcher going to British Antarctic Survey facility in Antarctica. So you have to find some other money to cover your flight between UK and Portland Island or Punta Arenas and transit at the bus concession rate, travel and subsistence expenses, freight costs of all equipment, and also hiring of polar clothing required for station and field use. The eligibility criteria for this category is applicant must have at least PhD in any field, and different from research grant, is managed by YPASM here. But for the birth support to Antarctica through British Antarctic Survey, we have to follow their application process. So applicant must complete all stages of application process set by British Antarctic Survey, and the details is available in the planning schedule bus expedition flowchart, which is available in the website. I think you have to take note here that the planning is 1 year ahead of time. So I think this detail is available in the net, so you can always go to our website. But take note that you have to do this a year before your planned expedition. For example, for this year, for the coming season, the deadline is closed already, which is December 2021. This example of list of recipient under the birth support to Antarctica from 2013. So those interested I strongly suggest for you to contact those that have received the support under this category. The other category, other than bus, British Antarctic Survey, we also provide support to birth support to other SCA member country facility in Antarctica. You can use either our MOU as the framework for your cooperation, or you can also try to find your own collaborators, provided they are from SCA member countries. Scope of expenditure is to cover return class economic affair from Kuala Lumpur to collaborator country or any departure points to or from Antarctica, subsistence expenses, freight costs, and also rental of polar clothing for field use. Eligibility is must be at least a master degree student, and you must already have identified your collaborator or research station in Antarctica. In terms of funding, quantum of this allocation is 55,000. So to date, we have a few that have successfully gained the birth support under this category. Dr. Aklima and also Ms. No Nadira from UPM, and they work. I think they do the research field work at the Bernardo O'Higgins station. Belongs to Chile. So call for proposal for all those that I have shared earlier. Deadline for Polaris Grant, you still have 2 more months to go, 31st March. Fellowship scheme also similar, 31st March. But as I mentioned earlier, deadline for birth support to Antarctica under the British Antarctic Survey, deadline has passed 10 December 2021. But for the other category, birth support through other SCA member country, deadline is 31st March. So please do your homework and prepare your proposal. We are more than happy to receive your proposal. So details, application form guidelines is available on the YPASM website. So for any inquiries, please be happy to contact Cik Fardi or Puan Intan at YPASM. Their email and contact details is on the screen. Just to share also, for those who plan to bring in soil from Antarctica, this is regulated by Plant Quarantine Act 1976, Plant Quarantine Regulation 1981. So basically, we don't encourage you to smuggle the soil, but we are more than happy to assist you in bringing in your soil into Malaysia. We are have a good relationship with Department of Agriculture, and they have approved, I think, at least 5 permits in Tanah for our researcher to bring in soil sample into the country. Next. Okay. Okay, next collaboration update. I think I have mentioned earlier that I think Prof. Azizan also mentioned earlier that we have signed the memorandum of understanding with Ukraine, and also the NARC has renewed its cooperation with Instituto Antartico Chileno. So this will provide opportunity for our researcher to work with Ukraine as well as Chilean. So maybe some of us would like to ask whether during this pandemic COVID-19, whether or not we are allowed to go to Antarctica. Just to share with you that 3 of our researchers are scheduled to leave for Antarctica. Mr. Sulaiman from UKM is scheduled to leave for Antarctica on 24th January. Dr. Lutfi from UPM on 28th January. And Dr. Aklima from UPM is also to leave for Antarctica on 29 January. The first one, Sulaiman will visit King Sejong Station, belongs to Korea. The second one, Rotera, is owned by British Antarctic Survey. And the third one is under the management of Instituto Antartico Chileno. So research is going on in Antarctica, despite there is COVID-19 cases in Antarctica. Polaris Research Symposium this year, YPASM is celebrating its 10th anniversary. So in conjunction with our 10-year anniversary, we will be having Polar Research Symposium together with annual general meeting of Asian Forum for Polar Science. So we look forward to see presentation from our researcher at this symposium. And we also invited a number of potential collaborators, as well as those who is leading, you consider leader in Antarctica research, including SCAR, European Polar Board, and others. So do please join us at this symposium, because that will provide you opportunity to network with those who has been involved in Antarctica earlier than us. This event will be held in October, 18 to 19 October, so with a target of 100 participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nasaruddin. Next, we come to the sharing session by the grant recipients. I would like to call upon Professor Dr. Michael Wong, Senior Lecturer from Biotechnology Research Institute, University Malaysia Sabah. He's also an old-timer in polar research. He received research grant from YPASM twice in 2016 and 2021. So, Prof. Michael, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Fadi. A very good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you to Yasan for inviting me to give this sharing at this moment. So I will make it more sort of informal, no? Just to share some of my experience. Just let me upload my slides for a while. Okay. Okay, I presume most of you attending this probably have worked with the Antarctic group or is supervised by some of the scientists that have been to the Antarctic. But I probably have a few that is not been to Antarctic, has not started any work on the Antarctic yet. My sort of talk will be more catered for those who have no experience with the Antarctic or have not started any work. So just let me share my experience of how I joined the Antarctic Research Lab. I'll try to give it within the 15 minutes so that we have more time for Q&A. All right. So my research on Antarctic started in 2001. I think at that time, mostly through the Academy of Sciences call for proposals. No, we are not so lucky like you are having a month or a few months to prepare the proposal. Our deadline is 24 hours. All right. Imagine at that time, I have no idea what Antarctic is all about. Where can I find, what are the things I can find over there, whether there's any soil, for instance. All in my imagination from geography is that Antarctic is only full of snow, nothing else. You only see white. But nevertheless, given what 24 hours, I was with UPM at that time. And that night, I remember with the Prof. Son Radu, we have been reading a lot of papers about Antarctic, mainly specializing in microbes, which is my area of expertise, and also Prof. Son Radu's one. So lucky enough, without sleeping 24 hours, we come up with a proposal. I tell you what is the most difficult part, that is to come up with a budget. To get to Antarctic, we don't even know how to get there. So we come up with a large amount of money, like 500,000, just to get to the Antarctic, because we really have no idea at the time. So the budget, all in all, I think it's more than 500,000 together. And then we submitted it on time the next day. And then we waited for 3 years. There's no news. We thought, like, totally forgotten about it. Probably it's already rejected or things like that. But nevertheless, 4 years later, 3.5 years later, sometime in 2004, we received a call. Professor Razu received a call to say that, shall we, you are invited to join an expedition to the Antarctic. I think that is thanks to the good work of the task force member, Tan Sri Saleh, and also Dr. Azizan and Dr. Siti Aisha. So through this invitation, that is how it started all the my journey to the Antarctic, which I'll share a bit experience with you later on. Okay, the problem is that what is the major problem is that if you are a new scientist, probably you are working, say, for instance, on microbes, or you're working on atmospheric. The first thing is that what can you do in the Antarctic? I think the key word is that really you can read up on all the publications, especially those published by Malaysian. At least you know what is the border, what you can do, what you cannot do there. For instance, if you want to do a long-term monitoring, setting up open top chamber or some kind of putting up weather monitoring machines, then you have to really find a long-term sort of collaborators now, because Malaysians we don't have the luxury of setting up to have a long-term monitoring like up to 20 or 30 years now, unless you have strong collaborations with certain nations. And those are the constraints, it seems. But for us biologists, we might be a bit lucky in the sense that we can go there, take some soil sample, take some snow sample, and take some whatever samples. You can bring me back and to carry out those research. I think if you are life sciences, I think it's better to think along that line. So then to make your project more feasible, and it's easier to find a collaborator. So as been mentioned, I checked NASA just now to say that they call for proposals every year, all right? But then sometimes the biggest challenge is to find a collaborator, which is a requirement in the proposal, international collaborator. So you really have to plan ahead, I have to really plan ahead to find the collaborators. It's not easy. You must find a person who has met you and are confident to work with you. So those are the main challenge. But there are some keywords or some pointers that you can find this collaborator. First is that, like Prof. Azizan mentioned, is that you tag along with some of people who already work on the Antarctic. That is one way so that you can get to know some people. But if you want to try your luck on your own to find a collaborator internationally, you can do so. Okay, some of the basic criteria of successfully getting a grant, of course, is a good proposal. I advise you to follow the guidelines as closely as possible so that you don't miss out any key points, especially getting an international collaborators. I was made to understand without international collaborators, it's not likely to be funded by YPASM. And of course, when you look for a collaborator, it's not just putting a name there. They must have their roles and they must do their parts. So finding a collaborators who match your interest is really important. And like I say, the one way you can do it is to tag along some of the established research group who has worked with Antarctic for a long time. And then from there, perhaps especially PhD students, you can take along your supervisor. When you graduate, you can establish your own collaborations from some of the people you have been in contact with, or through your supervisor you have been in contact with. Okay, how about newbies? Just like people who have no contact with Antarctic. I think YPASM came to play a very important role, and the National Antarctic Research Center as well. So through them, basically, they can help you to find some collaborators. But the important thing is that you must come up with a proposal to tell people what are you interested to work in. All right. Say, for instance, all this while you're working on tropical microbes, then you might want to expand that to the Antarctic, and then you have to read up a little bit and see what are the things that they might be common interests in other countries as well. And every now and then, YPASM will call for sort of meetings with international bodies, such as last year. There are 2 meetings, that is with the Ukraine scientists and also another one with the Argentinian scientists. So to do a matchmaking and to see what are your interests and their interests as well. And at the end of every session is always the expression of interest. To see, normally we will submit a proposal, say you work on alga, then you're going to write up a proposal on alga, then we will send it to our collaborators in the Argentinian or the Ukraine. They will look for people for you and to match up, and then you can start talking. And after that, then it might be establish some kind of collaboration. And for the host country to bring you to the Antarctic, then they also want to benefit. It's not just a one-side thing. So they want their scientists to have beneficial from your side. For instance, you are an expert for gas chromatography, whereas your collaborators over there might not be an expert. So then there's complementations within each other. So that will make a very successful sort of collaborations. All right. And your project must fit into the bigger picture of international research interests, especially those listed by the SCAR, Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research. I'll come to the SCAR a bit later. So the key point is that a good proposal, of course, I will not go into the detail how to write a proposal. I think that one, if you've gone through any proposal or write up, is more or less pretty standard. What is really is like the international collaborations and also fitting into the SCAR framework is the more important, that is unique to the YPASM grant, which is not in other grants. And another body that you need to know is that the National Antarctic Research Center. Now we have the Malaysian Antarctic Research Program, which is the program itself. Now that is initially housed under, and it's still housed under the National Antarctic Research Center. At that time, initially it's under the task force under the Academy of Sciences. And later, this secretariat has been moved to University of Malaya in 2002. Then about the same time, YPASM was set up also to play an important role to coordinate all these expedition and international collaborations. So apart from that, we are also active members in the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research, or SCAR. And then the EFOPS is more of a regional sort of a gathering. I will go into that now. All right. So To find collaborators is very important. Like Encik Nasa mentioned just now, if you want to look for collaborator, make sure it's within the scientific committee on Antarctic research. There are a long list of countries that is in there. You can go to their website and have a look. All right. Then more of a regional, you have the Asian Forum for Polar Sciences. Then there are 6 members basically: China, Japan, South Korea, India, Malaysia, and Thailand. There are also 4 observers country, that is Indonesia, Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. You can see it's like more like Asian things. But as an Asian, we have a very strong collaboration, especially with South Korea, and to a certain extent Japan as well. And we want to expand that collaborations. Of course, if you're interested, then perhaps through NARC or YPASM, they can find you collaborators in that particular country as for you to start off with your proposal. You might not be able to make it for this year's call for proposals. If you start planning now, next year, you might put in with a solid collaborators with a ready proposal. And this is AFOPS. You can go to their website and get a bit more information. The website link is below there. And then, so those are the member that is meeting every other year. And this year, Malaysia is the secretariat, then the meeting will be here. So all the other members from the 6 countries and also the 4, observer countries will be meeting, hopefully face-to-face in October this year in Malaysia. Then the bigger picture is really the international. Just now it's a regional, but this is a bigger picture. It's like almost most of the country around the world, if not, at least the major country in the world. So these are where they set the target for the next 5 or 10 years. What are the key projects and what are the global issues that we are trying to solve? So we don't want to be seen working as Jago Kampung that is working on what is you are interested, but rather we want to fit into the bigger picture of the world community. Then if you look at the website, you can find more information of what are the things that they plan to do for the next 5 to 10 years. And then if you fit into that, then at least Malaysians are contributing not just to our local issues, but rather international issues. And sometimes you find that it solves some local issues, it also fit into this framework. So have a look at it. Yeah. So these are some of the topics. If you are physical sciences, you can look at the physical sciences, life sciences, and I encourage for the life sciences, you look into the horizon scans. I think there are 40 or 50 sort of titles might be related to your work in there. All right. So that is what you should be doing. Yeah. Okay, just a bit about, I'll spend about 5 minutes or so talking about expedition experience. All right. My first experience is going by ship from South Africa to the East Antarctic, a very remote area. There's not many people there. And there are only 2 stations, the Russian stations and the Indian station that is very, very nearby. Apart from that, it's really isolated. So I stayed 3 months with my colleague from UC Malaya and also another colleague from UC Malaysia, Sabah. And that was a really eye-opening in the sense that I have no experience traveling so far and stay in the cold regions for so long. But we managed to learn a lot, not just in terms of science, but in terms of climatology and things like that. So whatever my geography teacher taught me, physical sciences, which I'm not very interested at that time, it suddenly come back all to me to say, to appreciate all the weathering. We see all the rocks, rockens and cracking, all because of weathering. You can see them very firsthand and it's not disturbed at all. So the cracks with all the things still side by side, you can see very, very nice landscape there. So that's the Shimako Oasis. And what we are doing is that this is my colleagues and also friends from Malaysia. We travel to the Antarctic. We travel a lot using ship and also the helicopter flying around because it's so remote that you cannot walk. And most of the way is only ice, water, and also rocks. No trees, nothing. So it gives you an idea. That is how it looks like. This is the station here. And you have a bit of lakes during summertime, just a brief period. After that, it's all frozen again. And you can see a lot of rocks. Behind that is really all white, but it's nothing else. Okay, then we talk about the subsequent trip. Subsequent trip is more challenging. At that time, I also don't have a collaborator from Chile. All right, but after attending the first the expeditions to the Indian station, I've come up with some publication and we presented in University of Magallanes having a conference day that time. And after the conference, we were invited by INACH very kindly, and Dr. Azizan was the leader at the time, presented of possible collaborations with the Chilean, and Dr. Siti Aisha and Prof. Pang Siu-Moi was there as well, together with me. So we presented, and they are very keen on these collaborations and asked us to submit proposals, and then we submitted, and then they linked up with those Chileans who are working in the same field of expertise, and we have a discussion, and we follow up by another discussion by going to the conferences in Conception. Yes, Conception. And we meet up with our collaborators, Hirado and Magallanes and Mariana. And then after that, we forged the first collaboration with the Chileans. And then at that same year, we were granted the berth to attend, to go to the Antarctic. 2 people going, and with me is Dr. Abirami, who has been to Antarctic at the time together with me. That's our first expedition with the Chileans. And our objective is really to determine the microbes diversity and distribution, and to look for microbes producing antimicrobial compound. And I would be happy to say that that collaboration lasted until today. And then in 2008, we also extended our research by collaborating with another group, Dr. Jenny Blamey here, with his PhD students, and I brought along my PhD students as well at that time. See? So all these arrangements are through the collaborations and from G to G, government to government. So we are getting there with all the logistic support from them. So we managed to travel to most of the island in the South Shetland Island, and we are studying all this until today. So basically, those are some of my experience working on the Antarctic, and also how I started my Antarctic journey. It has been now 18 years since then. So I'm still happy to say that it's a wonderful place to work with, and I'll be ready to answer any question you might have later. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Prof. Michael. So that's the point of view from a senior researcher in polar research. So to give a different point of view, we have invited a PhD student, Mr. Sulaiman Ali Muhammad from Institute of Climate Change, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, to share his experience and tip on securing fellowship scheme under YPASM, and his plan to join Korea Polar Research Institute, (KOPRI), for expedition to Antarctica next week. Mr. Sulaiman, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fardi. So I'll begin my presentation slide first. Okay, is it okay? Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Sulaiman Ali bin Muhammad. So I'm from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Currently, I'm a PhD student. So I'm under the supervision of Professor Dr. Mardina Abdullah, and also Dr. Muhammad Ridwan Ahmad from UTM. So basically, my study is the characteristic of lightning flashes of Antarctica Peninsula and its response to the upper atmosphere. So this is going to be the first lightning studies in Antarctic polar regions. So we are very interested to find the outcome of the study. So my sponsor and my collaborator and host is the Korean Polar Research Institute, (KOPRI), and it is under Dr. Sanjong Park. So first of all, I'd like to explain to you a bit about the overview of my sharing session for today. So I would like to focus on the objective of YPASM fellowship, proposal writing, finding collaborators, recommendation letters, budget, pandemic requirements, and necessary preparation before travels. So first of all, let's look into the objective of YPASM fellowship. So the first thing is to encourage active involvement of early career scientists, such as a PhD candidate, in polar scientific research. Then it is to develop local expertise and talents in polar research, as well as building new connection and networking with established researchers and experts in polar research. So basically, we can communicate with SCA member countries to be as our host. So for the proposal writing for the fellowship scheme, it is maximum 1,000 words. So it should be concise and direct to the point. So one thing that I would like to highlight is that it is important to answer all of the questions in the proposals. So that's the key important things in writing the proposal. So next is the recommendation letters from the host. So this is also important next to the proposal. So once you have written the proposal, we can submit the proposal to the host country first. For me, it's to COPRI. So with the recommendation letter, is to secure your slot in their research facility, so that we can have so that we confirm our slot in their research facilities. So to find a collaborator, actually, luckily for me, my supervisor and co-supervisor is have an active collaborator with COPRI. So the communication is already established, and communication between me and host with the host country is easier. So for newer application, I can suggest that we can ask for YPASM to connect with host countries, or as well as attending seminars and conference related to polar research, such as MISA. So for budget-wise, for the fellowship scheme, I think it's better to include all the necessary items, such as our tickets, insurance, subsistence, and medication, and as well as an unexpected additional costs. So since nowadays we are entering into a pandemic phase, so it is important to also check with the rules and regulation regarding quarantines. So as for me, I will be traveling from Malaysia to Chile. So there's a lot of rules and regulation that I need to find, which is already available in their website. So it changed from time to time. So we need to make sure that the rules and regulation is being checked regularly, and also as well as local rules and regulations, such as from KKM and also university. So for UKM especially, we have a iStar system for students to ask permission to travel to overseas. So basically, you need to ask quite early, because there's a lot of permission that need to be obtained, such as from the Kementerian Luar Negeri, Kementerian Dalam Negeri. So please do ask for the permission quite early. So other than that, actually we have from the Kementerian Kesehatan Malaysia. So this is for additional information. We now can do quarantine at home. So next is the mobility pass from Chile. Basically, we need to obtain mobility pass from Chile if we like to enter to Antarctica. So without the mobility pass, we cannot enter to Antarctica. So please make sure that you obtain the mobility pass. Next is actually I want to share to you the preparation checklist, since I'll be going to Antarctica next week on the 24th. So I divided into 4 items, which is the important documents, such as your tickets, passport, insurance, and next is the equipment. So everything needs to be in order in checklist. Other than that, actually, is the winter clothes, medication, food and snacks, which is very important. And additionally, this is from my initiative, which I brought some Malaysian souvenirs to Antarctica, so that we can share a little bit of our culture and also our values. So to recap this session for my sharing session, actually, for the proposal writing, we should always ask our supervisor for help in completing the proposal. Next is actually you can find your collaborators in locally or international through conference such as MISA, as well as we should check on the rules and regulation of the country that we are going to visit, because nowadays during pandemics it changes from day to day. So please, we should always remember that. All right, so basically this is the station that I'll be going to, which is the King Sejong station, right outside the Peninsula region. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. If there's any additional question for me, you can just email it to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sulaiman, for a
Yes.
brief and compact presentation. Right, great. So now we are at the Q&A session. So please drop your question or comments. You can give a comment as well, not only question, through the chat box available in the Zoom. Or for those who in YouTube, also can drop your question at in the chat box area. So our secretariat will help to compile the question and pass it to me. So any question from the floor?
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Your name and institution, please.
Okay, my name is Wan Rahiman from University of Science Malaysia. Okay, my question is that I just want to know for the engineering, especially in robotics technology, is it applicable to apply for these grants? Because last time I would thinking that if we have a robotics technology, for example, if we have a unknown vehicle, we can operate this unknown vehicle without going to the Antarctic. So you can operate or help any other researcher in Antarctic to assist them to collect data, and then the robotics is we are controlling from Malaysia. That is my question.
Right. Thank you. Prof. Azizan, this is a physical sciences area. Could you please respond?
The main problem with robots and whatever it is the weather. So I remembered the UTM, or is it UTM or USM people decided to bawa what you call yang underwater punya macam robot juga lah. But the main problem is when they try to put it into the Antarctic water, it did not sink because the salinity is much higher than what you have in Malaysia. In Malaysian waters, kita mungkin 29, dia mungkin 34, 35. So they had difficulty in trying to make it sink. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, your robot, whoever you want to use, must be able to acclimatize first to the Antarctic environment. Otherwise, so you still need to go there to test your robot, because otherwise, I remember when I put my automatic weather station, I go and visit it 1 year afterward. I couldn't even find it because it was buried in, you know, but I think, you know, at least 12 feet of snow. That's how much snow was in the Ross area. So a lot of climate issue, a lot of environment issue in which your robot, you're not sure whether your robot will work or not. At the one time I put my anemometer in one place, and then suddenly the whole anemometer wind vane habis got blown because it could not take the driving snow and also 50 meter per second wind. So, you know, you cannot assume that your robot can just, you know, you need to acclimatize it lah. That's all that I'm trying to say.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Harap dapat menjawab soalan tadi. Any more question? You can also write your question here in the chat box. Prof, Prof Azizan, biasanya apakah betapa weakness yang ada dalam proposal yang biasa kita terima tu? Every year akan ada macam few comments yang berulang-ulang lah daripada reviewer.
Yeah.
Mungkin Prof boleh summarize sikit weakness yang biasa kita terima dalam proposal.
I think one of the issue, especially those who are just coming without any knowledge of other research being done, so they put in some research proposal that's really way out in terms of, you know, logistic to support. And as I said, you must also remember it's only a 3-year project. So, you know, you have to cut down your expectation to be able to do the thing in 3 years, in which first year is just preparation. You have only 1 year in the Antarctic, and then maybe another year just to follow up, and then after that finish. So you must be realistic. And I think some of the project that we receive, one is not realistic, cannot be done. And the other one, of course, the collaboration is not very firm. But so the one that comes through usually have very firm collaboration, which means that they know what they want and they know their collaborator on the other side, what their collaborator want. And then basically Malaysian will come in, macam, you know, as an example, Sharul dengan the Ukrainian, they know already what they want, they know where to research, and then, you know, they just put in the research proposal, and from the referee point of view, the referee say, okay, this is doable, can be done, and, you know, it's coming up with some result. But, you know, if you go in, let's say you put a research in which the research might take 10 years, you know, that is an impossibility for YPASM to fund. So it must be a realistic research. I think that is, I hope that helps in terms of what you call, if they do plan for field work in the Antarctic. Okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Prof. This question from Prof. Michael. Are there any efforts by YPASM or NARC to establish research collaboration with or MOU with the USA or Russia, since they are the major players with many stations? Can Encik Nasruddin can respond, and perhaps Prof can respond in terms of scientific ataupun dari segi sainsnya. Cik Nasa, mungkin boleh respon terlebih dahulu.
Okay, I think in terms of collaboration with US, at least at the researcher level, I think there are ongoing collaboration, if not mistaken, Prof. Azizan, at the researcher level, I mean university levels lah. As for Russian, I don't think so. Even at the researcher level, but I think from YPASM perspective, we are more than happy to make this thing realize. Cuma I think it is also important to work at both level, maksudnya at the researcher level as well as at the YPASM level, so that kita tak nak nanti kalau kita sign there is no action lah, maksudnya tak berlaku, kita cuma sign on paper je, kita simpan. Begitu juga kalau at the researcher level, if there is a start or move from researcher level, we can always bring it up to the state or country level. I think of course, National Science Foundation is one of the, I think is the one who anchor funding for US program, and they are also very active in SCA. I think Prof. Azizan know most of them. So there is opportunity for us to initiate lah, at least. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jenazah. Prof, related to this question, is it important to collaborate with the countries yang mempunyai level science polar research yang lebih tinggi daripada kita? Ataupun macam ni doesn't matter?
I think both lah, because kalau kita lihat macam with US, our collaborators intake, we have Bromish, we have Breed, we have quite a lot from US actually inside our team. But we also in anti-climb now, in which we are also a member. We have quite a lot of American research in it. Tapi itulah is more at researcher to researcher level. Tapi researcher to researcher level, macam Shiba who used to be my student PhD dulu. I sent him to work in Bird Polar Center in Ohio, and and Bromish was willing to accept her. So what I'm trying to say, at researcher to researcher level, with US we have already good collaboration. I think with Australia pun kita ada researcher to researcher level, macam Andrew McMean ke or something like that. Sometimes it's not necessary to have MOU when you go to just in terms of data sharing, but I think the moment you want to send them to work on their bases, or to work at their bases, then it's better to have MOU, because there are issues that come out, things like health, things like Antarctic Treaty punya governance apa semua, then it's better lah. Tapi kalau researcher to researcher, just them sharing their lab, sharing their data, sharing their analysis, joint publication, itu tak payah sangat ada kata MOU. And that one memang dah mature dah. We work quite a lot, like Bromish, even John Turner, apa semua, or even Tom Brice-Girdle in my field lah. I mean, that one don't need MOU, just researcher to researcher levels. So you need to get into the people who are working with them lah. I mean, be their student lah. Kalau you are doing your PhD, or else if you not, macam katalah the one kat UMT tu, you join the group. Then you join that group, usually they are more than welcome, and then you can then have access to the network of that group lah. Because we have a very strong atmospheric group, we have a strong biology group, microbiology group, and they already have very well established network lah. And of course, Madiana has a strong lightning group lah, that can extend. Okay, I hope I can.
Right, thank you, Prof. Any more question from the audience? Prof. Michael, perhaps you can share your experience collaborating with Chilean researchers. As you're aware, a bit they're not that English is quite a problem for conversation. So perhaps you can share your experience.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for those who have engaged with them, they speak many Chilean Spanish. So, like it or not, just like you going to Japan, they do understand what you are saying. Perhaps communications, some of them are really good in English anyway. But then some, especially if you are looking in general, the public or some of the scientists, they are not well versed. So, in order to sort of blend into the so-called the research community, you have to yourself learn some Spanish. so to better utilize your stay, especially if you're staying for like up to a month or so, be able to communicate. But being there, it's a learning process. As you stay there, you start to learn the languages as well. Just like I've been studying in Japan as well. So it started off a bit difficult. After a while, you get used to that. You learn some English and you learn some Spanish. But so far there's no issue. We have been able to communicate. Now it's even better. The time I went, Google Translate was not so well established, but now with Google Translate, I think all the barriers can be broken. It's easily with ways of communicating with them. Yeah. But the thing is that when you are joining certain groups of a certain language, is that you have to learn some of the basic, how do I say, terminology or how to greet people or how to start a conversation, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's a very interesting experience. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay. There are no more questions, so we have come to the end of today's session. So we hope the session will help the researchers with their proposals and also improve for the new researchers to improve the understanding of polar research overall. So before we end our event, I would like to request all of you to turn on your cameras and join us for a brief photo session. Alright, ready? No chat, Intan belum ready lagi. Okay, ada sound tak on lagi, right? Okay, ready? Right. 1, 2. Coba Intan. Okay, sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Right. Second gallery. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, before signing off, nak habaq satu benda lah. In our discussion dengan Ukraine,
okay,
they are also interested in oceanographic work because mereka dah dapat kapal mereka yang baru tu,
okay,
James Noosphere, and they were hinting that we can have some joint cruise with them. And I think those who are interested in working with Ukraine in oceanography, Southern Ocean oceanography, maybe people from UMT, they should think about it. I think Michia also should think about it because they are offering, masa kita cakap tu, they are offering nak menggunakan dia punya new ship dia, the old James Clark Ross. Itu saja.
Oh, thank you, Prof. To siapa berminat untuk partner with Ukraine, the opportunity to join dia punya kapal dia baru beli.
That one they offer tu.
Right.
Online tak offer.
Okay. Then perhaps can contact Prof or contact YPASM, okay, untuk kita work on it, collaboratekan dengan Ukraine. Okay, kalau tak ada, take care, enjoy your holiday tomorrow, and selamat menyambut Hari Thaipusam kepada siapa yang meraihkan. Okay, terima kasih. Bye.
Agak tak kena hack lagi.
First time ni, aduh.
Aduh, celaka betul.
Baik tadi time ambil gambar kamera tu tak keluar gambar plate-plate.
Okay lah. Bye.
Okay.
Wah, Aklima punya team, you are very good lah. You punya team one the highest according to lens.org.
Alhamdulillah rezeki.
Banyak How many papers did you manage to get?
InsyaAllah. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.